Hey everyone, welcome to Locked On Lakers for Tuesday. Brian Kamenetsky, Andy Kamenetsky, no Deandre Ayton as the Lakers face a large Clippers squad. What are they going to do next?
You are Locked On Lakers, your daily Los Angeles Lakers podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Thanks to everybody for making the Locked On Podcast Network the number one podcast network in all the land, and all the lands, all of them. This is the biggest one, the best one. Locked On Lakers, big part of that, and you are a big part of making it happen, and we certainly appreciate it. Whether you're getting your podcast through Apple, through Spotify, whether you're joining on YouTube as a live viewer even, however you do it, we certainly appreciate it. And hope you stick with us. Do want to let everybody know before we jump into a busy show that today's episode is brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, use code LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off your first purchase. We started to talk about it on Monday, and it's obviously a topic of conversation that'll continue. The Lakers shooting, and whether or not what we're seeing here is going to improve all of that stuff. And Andy, first we need to talk about the game right in front of the Lakers and who won't be playing in it. Deandre Ayton will be out of Tuesday night's game against the Clippers with that knee contusion. No word yet on how long that absence will last, but at least for Tuesday, he's not there. And this is a game where you could use legitimate 7-foot, starting caliber center, because the Clippers may not be very good, Andy, but they are big.
They are big, and we can get into some of their size. I consider elements of it problematic for the Lakers and elements of it problematic for the Clippers. So there could be different ways to gauge that. Just for more clarity, a little more detail, the Lakers did not practice on Monday. So because of that, there's been no details on Ayton's situation beyond the duration of it, just like how severe they think it is, what degree of pain he's in, if he's being left out purely, or being kept out of the game purely as a precautionary thing or something that they are concerned about longer term. I'm sure there will be more details before the game. JJ will be asked about it certainly afterwards. But yeah, it's going to be an issue first and foremost, just dealing with Ivica Zubac. He's one of the better centers in the league. He can be extremely effective around the glass, and Deandre Ayton is one of the better deterrents the Lakers have, and he is definitely the biggest Laker that they have. So it's going to be a lot of work, I think, in particular with Zubac and trying to corral him. And as much as you're going to be looking to Jaxson Hayes and Maxi Kleber and Rui and LeBron in their own rights, it's going to be a group project. And I think we'll get into some of the individual skills and areas that Ayton himself brings to the table that they're going to have to offset. And what I think is also going to be a kind of an interesting thought experiment in some ways when it comes to just Ayton in general with this team. But as far as, because you mentioned the size of the Clippers, it really, to me, is about Zubac and what they do about him.
Mm-hmm. And one of the things that I think will be interesting just to see is who JJ starts. Oftentimes in these types of situations, you don't necessarily elevate, coaches won't elevate the backup. The guy that at least is seen right behind as the backup, because it screws up your rotation that much more. Sometimes you'll see it where they'll get the guy, the third guy, and drop him in there. And especially given the the matchup, it would not surprise me at all if Maxi Kleber started this game. I actually don't even think it's a bad idea. And because Hayes, one of the things that I really like about Hayes and what they've been doing with him, and I think it's been very helpful throughout the year, is allowing him to spend more time against backup players and second units and things like that. and where I just think, generally speaking, he can be more effective. You're not going to be getting much offense, whether as a starter or a reserve, out of Clay, but that's not what he's going to be out there to do. I think, he can provide you the sort of structure that you need defensively, set the screens that you want, and all that kind of stuff. I think, again, wouldn't surprise me. It might be what I would do, but either way, both those guys are going to have to be ready to go.
Yeah, I think you can make an argument for it either way. I don't think there is a true right or wrong answer, especially when you consider that neither one of them is an ideal starting option in the first place. I think the biggest argument you could make for Hayes is he's a really good lob partner and pick and roll partner with Luka. I think he also occupies Zubac more defensively than Kleber does. And that might, if nothing else, keep him busier, or maybe actually have a greater potential for getting Zubac into some foul trouble. Because I think one way to combat the fact that they now have the best center on the floor is to try to get him off the floor. And that might be one way to do it. But
yeah, I mean, I guess the only really you're talking about, because Jaxson can roll hard to the rim and stuff like that. I mean, you're obviously not dropping the ball down to him in the post and letting him draw fouls that way on Ivica Zubac. That's not
which you're also not doing with Kleber either.
I mean, the only possible difference is you could, in theory, there was a time, Andy, when Maxi Kleber would have pulled Ivica Zubac away from the basket. That time, I think, has passed.
I mean,
most teams will happily let Kleber beat them from the perimeter and turn back the clock.
JJ still seems to believe in this in the way like a small child believes in Santa. And look, maybe this will be the year when we all learn that Santa's real. And I want to make it clear, I really like the way Maxi played Sunday versus Utah. I think his limited minutes have been good. So I don't have an issue with Maxi being on the floor at all. I just get a sense, because I think JJ values spacing a lot, which is not singular to JJ. Most coaches do, but because he values spacing a lot, and I think sometimes comes up with his lineup configurations based on spacing, I think he, if nothing else, wants to believe in the idea of Maxi Kringle, as it were.
Do you think that it's because I don't think the spacing thing is
I don't think it's the only reason, but I don't think it's
of Kleber for Redick.
I don't think it's the only reason. I think it is a reason. I don't think it's the only.
I think it's a reason. I don't necessarily know if it's like one of the top couple, but
I think it is.
Either way,
I think it is.
Yeah, I don't know. I think it's the other stuff. I think it's the defense. I think it considers him more reliable. I think he does more of the sort of the small things, sets a better screen, does all the less likely to be moving while he does it than Jaxson, things like that. So, but we'll see. I mean, how he handles it. But like the bigger thing about this is it is a reminder of what they're missing without Ayton. And obviously, you talk about the 7-footer, and he's done a pretty decent job, especially based on his career, and the expectations of rim protection and stuff like that. But I think, the biggest loss for the Lakers when Ayton doesn't play is offensively. They're just the limitations that this creates, the how much easier having Ayton there makes life for Luka, for Reeves, for LeBron, because you have a presence in the lane that needs to be accounted for on that screen and roll and all this stuff. Now the Lakers are going to have to figure out a different way to create space around the floor so that they don't become, sort of an exclusively jump shooting, 3-point shooting team. Because Andy, as we've noted in the last few shows, that's not going very well right now.
Well, that whole mid-range area offensively for the Lakers is going to suffer for however long Deandre Ayton's not there. He's been just outstanding in that area per cleaning the glass. He's in the 80th percentile for his position in the mid-range for accuracy and 92nd percent in terms of frequency. And along with Rui, Ayton is a big reason that the Lakers have been one of, for a while, actually, the best team in the mid-range in the entire league. It also, as you pointed out, it varies what they can do offensively, the entire diet in front of them. They're going to miss Deandre Ayton as an offensive rebounder, like both what he does individually and how the team tends to perform on the offensive glass. They're better when he's on the floor. And I do think Jaxson and Maxi can be helpful here. Jake LaRavia has been sneaky good on the offensive glass this whole year, but Ayton takes up the most space of everybody, and that really is one of his calling cards. And to your point, also the screens that he sets really gets guys open. Against Utah in the first half, where Ayton played, and not even particularly effectively, because I think pretty early on he was dealing with that knee contusion, the Lakers scored 62 points. In the second half, without Ayton at all, they scored 46. Do I think it is entirely because of Ayton's absence, that discrepancy? No, but it ain't not because of it either.
No, and I do think it'll potentially could exacerbate some of their perimeter shooting problems, which we'll get into next.
Locked on Lakers is brought to you by Robinhood. Your ambition, it just met its match. With Robinhood, you play for the win, not just on game day, every day. Locking in on every opening, beating your PR, beating it again. Channel that drive into your money. Robinhood puts you in control of your money. Trade stocks and ETFs, options and futures and crypto, all on one platform. You can now build and execute your own trades from a desktop with Robinhood Legends advanced tools, or take advantage of the new Robinhood strategies with a tailored portfolio managed by a team of experts. You can expect more from yourself. You do expect more from yourself. Expect more from your money. Get started today at Robinhood.com/yourmoney. Again, that's Robinhood.com/yourmoney. Your money, your move.
Locked on Lakers is also brought to you by Drip Drop. Andy, my children will tell you my answer to everything is drink more water, get hydrated. My head hurts, drink more water, get hydrated. Not feeling great, too tired, too whatever. Doesn't matter. My answer to them is always get hydrated. And when I'm hydrated, everything works better. Focus, energy, mood, even my skin all looks better. And I've not, you can move beyond just water. You go to Drip Drop. It's a doctor-developed hydration that keeps me running at full power no matter what my day looks like. Drip Drop is not your average sports drink. It delivers 3 times the electrolyte at half the sugar of leading brands. Another thing I try to keep away from my kids, using a science-backed formula trusted by medical professionals, firefighters, and over 90% of college and pro teams. Again, if you're a person who thinks that hydration solves a lot of problems, and it really, truly does, this is a great way to stay hydrated because, in part, it tastes really good. Whatever flavor is your favorite, this becomes your secret weapon to staying sharp and energized throughout the day. Hydration is a non-negotiable. And right now, Drip Drop is offering podcast listeners 20% off your first order. Go to dripdrop.com and use the promo code LOCKEDONNBA. That's dripdrop.com, promo code LOCKEDONNBA for 20% off. Stock up now before the heat comes back, and keep your body and mind performing at their best with Drip Drop. Yeah, I hope he's not out long. I mean, the Lakers did officially do, I know we talked on Monday's show about the Drew Timme for Christian Koloko two-way player swap that the Lakers have reportedly been getting ready to do. That is, I guess, Tuesday became more official. The Lakers are actually making that move. And Drew Timme, while obviously if he were a star player, he would not be on a two-way, but he is far more playable than Christian Koloko. He had some good minutes with the Nets last season and has been putting up huge numbers in the G League. He is a much more of a usable break glass in case of emergency center / forward than Koloko. And the hope is that's not why the Lakers chose to move this process along, but we'll see. I mean, I would suspect that he will be in uniform Tuesday night for the
So do
Lakers.
I imagine that the timing of this is not coincidental. It's funny, actually. Dan Wojcicki, friend of the show from The Athletic, tweeted out, quote, "Rumors about the Lakers' interest in Timme have really picked up steam since LeBron James's time with South Bay," referencing when LeBron was rehabbing and getting ready to join the big club, working out with the G League. And I'm just begging you, LeBron, lean into this bit and say that Drew Timme has been on your radar since like second grade. Like you've been watching this little kid, Drew Timme, and you knew when he was like 9 years old, this kid was going places. Just come on, LeBron, everybody thinks that you're like a teller of tall tales and frankly, a liar. And I'm not saying you are. I'm just saying lean into the bit. Come on, do it.
I'm a little concerned, to be honest with you, about what this offense, which does not look that great anyway, looks like when you take out this very important piece of not just scoring. I mean, Ayton's been providing them anywhere from a very reliable 12 to 20 a night, but the how these points get there is important. The Lakers against Utah shot like 73% from 2-point range, and they drew a bunch of fouls, but they got to get into the interior of a defense to do that. Ayton is a huge help for that sort of thing, just in moving the pieces around. Now they're going to have to figure out how to do it in a way that hopefully won't involve just chucking up a bunch of 3-pointers and hope they go in.
Yeah, we're going to talk about the chucking of said 3-pointers and why they are chucking too many. But one of the things I was thinking about with Ayton, and like you said, I hope this is not a long absence, but for however long Deandre can't play, I think it's going to be kind of an interesting look at data versus the eye test. Like the offense, for example, is a net 2.7 points better with Deandre Ayton on the floor, only per 100 possessions. Only Luka and Austin have played as many or more minutes than Ayton with as high of an offensive rating. But the defensive rating is 7.7 points worse with Ayton on the floor, leading to an overall negative net rating for Deandre Ayton. And I think our everydayers know, I and you as well, Brian, we're people that use analytics. We use advanced data. We think it is useful stuff. But I also believe in what I'm seeing on the court as somebody who's paying attention in the eye test. And I see Deandre Ayton active and disruptive and putting in effort. He is not perfect, and he can be flawed defensively, but whatever issues the defense has, like they are about Ayton to some degree because he plays like 30 minutes a night or close. So he's a part of it, but they don't feel like they are about Deandre Ayton in the way that his reputation would lead you to believe. So I think it's going to be interesting to see what effects are there. It's also, in looking at some of the two-man lineup data, his defensive rating picks up tremendously when he is playing with Marcus Smart, as does Ruiz. It's when the two of them are together.
Right.
As a two-man, their two-man data shrink or gets worse on the defensive end. Yet another reason that I would swap in Marcus Smart for Rui, not as a demotion of Rui. It's about lineup combination, skill sets, and whatnot. But it's going to be interesting, I think, to see just, and again, hopefully it's not a long period, but it's going to be interesting to see just how this all looks without Deandre, and if nothing else, does his absence confirm the data, or does it confirm more the eye test, or a bit of both?
Well, I guess I was going to say, while you were talking about the numbers in terms of like his net rating and all that, it is, I think, very dependent, as you then went on. I was to say, it's like it's really very much dependent on who he's playing with, and the starters question is tabled, I guess, to some degree a little bit,
Sure.
because now you have whole other set of combinations and stuff like that. But but it's also related to the shooting. I mean, because we can carry this through after the break and start talking about it now. Part of the problem with Smart, and I've been an advocate for him starting, assuming the Lakers think he's physically capable of doing this for the season.
I want to ask JJ about this the next time he's put in front of us at practice and stuff.
Just, how much they think that matters. Does it matter if he plays, that first bite comes against second units as opposed to first? Do they see an advantage there? Because you can still close games. Like, there's no rule that says just because you don't start doesn't mean you can't finish. But
it's often the opposite.
Yeah. The problem is, as bad as the Lakers shooting has been, Smart is making guys look like prime clay out there. Like, Luka is, not shooting but well by his standards. He's around 30%. And Reeves is around 30%. LaRavia is right.
They are both at 31.1%. Luka and Austin.
They're such good buddies right now. They even do the same thing from the
that's their chemistry. They're both crappy from behind the arc at the same time.
LaRavia is down, near about 30%. Everybody's at about 30%, except Marcus Smart, who by volume is their third most voluminous 3-point shooter on the team, and he's in the 20s, low 20s, and so that is problematic. And so when you are trying to make some of these decisions and balance the offense versus the defense on a team that already isn't forcing the issue when it comes to spacing, swapping out somebody like Rui, who is their only good 3-point shooter right now, for Marcus Smart, who is their worst, carries with it some problems. So I do get why, at least for the time being, they had stuck with Rui.
Okay, we can talk about this after the break. And to your point, this is not going to be, finger quotes, solved for a variety of reasons on Tuesday, including their starting center won't be available. But I have some thoughts both on the shooting and some questions about this group moving forward, but also the Rui piece of this specifically. As big of a Rui proponent as I think our everydayers know I've been since minute one when he arrived for this team, there's a major glaring problem with keeping Rui in the starting lineup specifically for the shooting, and we'll get into that next. Locked on Lakers is brought to you by Game Time and basketball season. It is officially here. Lakers 12-4. Nothing beats being in the arena for these opening games, cup games, the Lakers versus Clippers. That's a cup game. But getting tickets, that can be a total headache between waiting in queues, surprise fees, prices that jump out right before checkout. It's easy to get frustrated when all you want to do is cheer on your team, which I'm guessing for most of our listeners, the Lakers. That's where Game Time comes in, the app that gives fans the advantage. It's your ultimate life hack for scoring amazing tickets fast, easy, and stress-free. And I love that what you see is what you pay. There's no hidden fees at the checkout. The zone deals allow you to pick the section. Game Time will then pick your seats, and you save big. You can even find NBA tickets for under $25. That's crazy. Take the guesswork out of buying NBA tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, use the code LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off your first purchase. That's terms apply. That's code LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off. Swipe, tap, ticket, go.
Quick note before we jump back into this conversation for people looking at the Lakers schedule upcoming. It is another light week of games. Lakers play Tuesday, then they have a couple days off, and then they play Friday. So they do get a little bit of a, at least until the weekend, and you start getting back into more of that every other day rhythm. Kawhi Leonard has returned to the Clippers. He is expected to play Tuesday. This will be his second game back from a relatively long absence. His presence in the lineup did not help them against Cleveland the other day. They still lost by 15. Anthony Davis, when the Lakers play the Mavericks later in the week, could play in that game as well. So a bad Mavs team could get a little bit of help there, in the same way that the Clippers obviously become better, at least when Kawhi is available. So two games that looked, like on paper, Andy, look like games against bottom feeding teams change a little bit when they get their stars back.
Yeah.
Anyway,
I mean,
carry
Jaxson
on.
pretty much
Helpful information from HQ.
Yeah. No, absolutely. With Rui, I understand the idea of wanting to keep him out there beyond the fact that Rui's having a really good season and there's a lot that he brings to that starting unit. But if you're talking about specifically the shooting piece of this, and Rui is far and away the best outside shooter on this team, and it's not even close. It's frankly disturbingly not enough of a fight. But if Rui is going to be out there specifically, or at least if not solely, in large part because of what he does as an outside shooter, they need to make a point of getting him more shots. Like, he needs to take more than 4 threes a game, because if he's only taking 4 threes a game, I don't care that he's shooting almost 50%, because there's all these other issues that get exacerbated for reasons that are not in, they're nothing Rui's doing wrong. It's he's not meant to be guarding guards and small wings and some of these other issues. And you already have some degree of spacing with LeBron, Luka, and Austin anyway, because those guys are always going to draw defenders. I mean, now there's an issue with their shots not actually going in from behind the arc, but as far as actually drawing defenses, I don't care if those guys start shooting in the teens from behind the arc. They're never going to be left alone. And Ayton also occupies defenders because he's a scorer. So unless you're really going to start using Rui more as an outside shooter, which I'm a proponent of, I've complained for years, I don't think they use Rui enough offensively, period. But if you're not going to make a real point of it, and part of that point means telling Luka, Austin, and LeBron, once he starts getting back in the swing of things and inevitably putting up more threes, you guys need to sacrifice some of your own outside shots so the guy who's actually good at it can do it. If you're not going to do that, then you might as well improve the defense.
Yeah, I think the point that you just made is where I would go with it, is some of this is just scheme. Like, they need to, and we'll see too with Ayton out, they're going to need to be more creative with how they utilize LeBron, Luka, and AR as a trio. Could be just because you don't want to be in a situation, that your pick and roll combinations aren't quite as good as they otherwise would be. Even when Jaxson Hayes is in there, A, the screens aren't as good, and B, the available arsenal of outcomes isn't that big. It's just lob, basically, in terms of Jaxson Hayes, who I think you made the point for Monday's show, too often tends to just pass the ball out of the.
Well, I didn't say he does it. I didn't say that.
When he gets the ball on the rolling to the basket, he very often kicks it back out.
Oh no!
As opposed to going up.
Sure.
Trying to finish at the rim, go up through contact, whatever it might be. And he certainly isn't going to take out any post moves or, try to take jumpers from the elbow or things like that. So you're
no, all I meant was I had said that I think he's an underrated short roll passer. That's all. I didn't
right,
say
but and the point I made on the show was like, he does that too much. He does it to the exclusion of sometimes of going up through contact or trying to, finish at the rim or draw a foul or whatever. Because while he's underrated and he does maybe a little better at the man thing, he's not Jokic in there. And so, I am curious to see what they do to try to free things up, where there are actions that they run. Do they run LeBron off ball a little bit more and try to draw attention that way? He is such a smart player. And have him find holes, catch the ball on the move. I think one thing that they'll certainly try to do in the absence of Ayton is run the floor more. I think playing quicker is going to be a really big thing for them,
especially against a Clippers team that looks old as hell. Man, if you watch them, they look old.
They kind of are.
Well, no, they there's no kind of, they are, but I'm saying they they're not aging like Dick Clark to make a very dated reference.
And Bradley Beal already out. You know, the CP thing, he played better last year than he has this year. Like, that's not giving them I think the little bit of sort of mid-rotation boost that they hoped he might. I mean, like, it's funny with the Lakers, people tell, oh, the Lakers are old. They're not really. They're just talking about LeBron.
Right.
Like, the Lakers are old in that LeBron is old, and like Smart, I guess, is getting older, but he's not old.
No, he's just getting more injury prone, and he's at the back end of his prime, but he's not old.
No. So I think, and I especially think that with LeBron, it's a great way to use him, is to have him out on the break and, you know, catch, go, and do that, because he is still one of the most effective players in the league on the break, whether as a passer, certainly, but as a finisher as well, because while he does struggle, I think sometimes now to finish in traffic in the half court, he does not have that struggle in the open court. Like, nobody's getting in his way. That is just a business decision that players still don't make against LeBron. So I think a better pace would be one of the things that I would hope they would try to generate in the absence of Ayton.
Well, I mean,
part of you because your rebounding is not as good, but
the rebound. Blu-ray 10 says the Clippers are closer to Andy and Brian's age than they are to young NBA players. Hashtag sad but true.
Not good.
If you're looking for glass half full, even forced glass half full upsides to Deandre Ayton not being there, there is going to be, I think, more natural mobility if your bigs are Jaxson and Maxi. Like, there is, I think, going to be more of a natural up tempo with those two than Ayton, who I do think DeAndre actually runs the floor reasonably well, but it's not his thing. And DeAndre is not like an up and down the court style player. Again, he can run the floor, but it's not his greatest asset with, you know, Jaxson especially, but I think Maxi also. You're probably going to be a bit quicker, so that can be a good thing. And again, I would look to run this Clippers team. Like, if you think the Lakers look slow at times, man, these guys look really slow. Now watch, they'll come out and look crispy, athletic, and all that stuff.
They might. I mean, Ty Lue is actually trying to, in part, just to change
play some of the younger guys.
Yeah, like, he is trying to play the younger guys a little bit more. You know, the Lakers, this is a tale of two different vibe checks, by the way. I mean, the Lakers, some people are accusing them basically of functioning almost solely on vibes, given their shooting and defensive rankings and stuff like that. Their clutch, you know, the stats on winning close games is really, really good. Which tends sometimes to even out over the course of a season. So, well, maybe for, you know, while they have these couple games off, we'll talk about, you know, which part do you buy 12-4 at face value, or do you think perhaps there's some weakness in there? But the Clippers, you know, they're trying everything. The vibe check over there is awful. Absolutely awful.
You know, it's funny.
Nothing planted a few trees can't fix, but it really isn't good over there.
I was just about to say the season has been such a disaster on the court. It has overshadowed the whole aspiration, Kawhi, Ballmer, cap circumvention thing. Like, we've completely stopped. I mean, I realize there's, you know, league investigation at this point. There's not stuff to talk about every single day. Pablo seems to be busy doing other investigations, but like, the basketball has been so bad, it's overshadowed, you know, what could end up one of the larger scandals in recent sports history. Before we go, real quick, just because I want to make sure it gets mentioned, I wanted to acknowledge the passing of Claire Rothman, who she was 97 years old. If you watched Winning Time, she was the character played by Gabby Hoffman on the show, and she ran a lot. She was the president and the general manager of the Forum when Jerry Buss first got involved, you know, owning the Lakers and Showtime, and, you know, the NBA and sports changing with the explosion of Showtime, she was a real trailblazer when it comes to women in professional sports. And she was very important to that time. So I just thought it was worth mentioning.
Locked On Lakers on YouTube is where you can go hang out with over 37,000 subscribers to the channel. We, of course, will be back after the game against the Clippers to break it all down. We'll see you then.